So many remember Perot for his presidential campaigns, but he was so much more than that. Perot was a loving husband who met his wife before shipping out to war, and he was a daring strategist, hiring mercenaries to rescue 2 employees being held hostage in Iran.
But the core of his legacy is in his bold business moves, turning a $1,000 loan for his first company into a $1 billion empire in just 6 years. Here's Jason Whiteley.
Perot is a name that a lot of people knew, but a man that Rick Lottie admired.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I'll take to my grave, is the admiration I have for Ross.
Lottie worked for Perot at Electronic Data Systems in the late 1970s. It was Perot's Dallas-based tech firm that digitized all of the Medicare and Medicaid records for the federal government.
He always knew where he was headed, where he was going, and had a pretty good idea of how he was going to get there. But he always knew he had to depend upon people who he always referred to as being smarter than he was to help him get there.
General Motors paid $2.4 billion for a controlling stake in Perot's company. He then started Perot Systems, which Dell later bought for $3.9 billion. But Perot was about more than just business. In the early 1970s, he chartered 2 airplanes to fly prisoners of war out of Vietnam. A decade later, he led educational reforms in Texas, creating standardized testing and no pass, no play for student athletes.
Now, you're going to have to endure my speech, but the Q&A period is fun, so that gives you something to look forward to.
But his foray into politics sealed him in American history. Perot ran for president in 1992, advocating for a balanced budget.
He not only came from nowhere to build a $1 billion company, but he was an unusual guy. He was a small man, high squeaky voice, and he was just willing to take on issues and problems.
10 years ago, few knew, but Perot privately helped victims wounded at the Fort Hood massacre.
I'll remember him as a great man. As a guy that really cared for people.
No problem was too big to tackle, Rick Lottie said, for this generous, self-made Texan. Perot died at his Dallas home Tuesday morning at age 89. In Dallas, I'm Jason Whiteley.